Imagine a village where people disappear, one by one, without a trace. And now, only one person remains. But for how long? Ramesh wiped the sweat off his forehead. His fingers trembled as he clutched the wooden door of his house. The wind outside howled like a wounded animal. He wasn't sure how many nights he had spent like this, awake, listening, waiting. He had lost count. The village of Kalagat wasn't always like this. Just a month ago, it was a lively place where children played in the dusty streets, old men smoked pipes outside their homes, and women gathered to share stories in the evening. But now, there was no one. No voices, no laughter, no life. Only him. The disappearances started subtly. First, it was an old man who went to the well and never returned. Then, a woman who stepped out to fetch her child and vanished mid-step. It didn't seem real at first. The villagers searched for them, convinced they had merely lost their way in the dense forest. But then, it started happening more frequently. Entire families disappeared overnight. No screams, no struggle, no bodies, just gone. Now, only Ramesh and his childhood friend Jamil remained. And they both knew. This wasn't over. The clock struck 2 in the morning. The silence was unbearable. Even the crickets, who usually chirped through the night, had gone quiet. Ramesh glanced at Jamil, who sat by the window, gripping a rusted machete he had found in an abandoned house. Then it came. A knock, software, rhythmic. A pattern that almost felt calculated. Ramesh's breath hitched. Jamil froze, his knuckles turning white around the machete's handle. The knocking grew louder, more insistent. Then, silence. Jamil swallowed hard and slowly peeked through the cracked window. What he saw made him reel back so violently that he nearly knocked over the lantern. "It's them!" His voice was barely a whisper. Ramesh hesitated, but his curiosity got the better of him. He moved closer to the window, heart pounding so hard it felt like it might explode. He shifted the curtain an inch and his stomach twisted. Outside, in the dim moonlight, stood the missing villagers. Their eyes were hollow, lifeless. Their faces expressionless, mouths slightly parted, as if they were trying to speak, but had forgotten how. They weren't moving, weren't breathing. They were just standing there. Then, all at once, they spoke. "Come back. Join us. You have to go too." The words weren't loud, but they vibrated through the walls, crawled into his ears, and settled in his bones. Jamil grabbed Ramesh's arm. "We need to leave, now." But before they could move, the door creaked. The handle twisted. Ramesh lunged forward, pushing all his weight against it. "Help me!" he gasped. Jamil snapped out of his trance and threw his back against the door. Something on the other side pushed harder. The wood groaned under the pressure. Then suddenly, nothing. The weight lifted. The air grew still. Even the wind outside seemed to pause. Jamil exhaled sharply. "We can't stay here." Ramesh nodded. He already knew where they needed to go, the forbidden temple at the edge of the village. It had been abandoned for decades. Some said it was cursed. Others whispered that it held a secret, something the village had long buried and forgotten. But Ramesh's grandmother had once told him, "If you ever feel the shadows creeping closer, run to the temple. The answers are waiting there." They didn't waste another second. Slipping out the back door, they sprinted through the empty streets. Houses stood like forgotten gravestones, doors hanging open, beds still made, food left half-eaten on tables, as if their owners had simply vanished mid-life. Halfway to the temple, Jamil skidded to a halt. "Do you hear that?" A faint rustling echoed from behind them. Ramesh turned, scanning the darkness. His pulse roared in his ears. The villagers were following them, not running, not walking, just appearing. One moment they weren't there, the next they were closer. Their heads tilted unnaturally, their mouths moved, forming silent words. And then, the whispering started again. "Come back. Join us. You have to go too." Ramesh grabbed Jamil's wrist and pulled him forward. They ran faster, lungs burning, legs aching. The temple was just ahead. Its stone walls were cracked and covered in vines, but it still stood tall, as if it had been waiting for them. They burst through the entrance and slammed the heavy doors shut behind them. The whispers stopped. A single torch flickered inside, illuminating an old wooden altar. On it lay a book, its pages yellowed, the ink faded. Jamil hesitated before flipping it open. The words were difficult to read, but one sentence stood out. The curse will only end when the last survivor leaves the village and never returns. Ramesh's blood turned to ice. That means... Jamil's scream cut him off. Ramesh spun around just in time to see Jamil's eyes roll back. His body jerked violently before going completely still. Then, his face changed. His expression went blank, his eyes hollowed, his lips parted as if to whisper, "Come back. Join us." "You have to go too." Ramesh stumbled back. His best friend, his last remaining friend, was gone. No time to think, no time to mourn. He turned and ran, through the temple doors, down the village streets, past the empty houses, the soulless villagers, the ghosts of what once was. His feet pounded against the dirt road as the village boundary neared. He could see the forest beyond it, the real world, safety, freedom. But then, Jamil appeared in front of him. Only it wasn't Jamil anymore. "Come back! Join us! You have to go too!" Ramesh screamed. He didn't stop. He ran straight through the ghostly figure, past the final house, across the village border. A deafening silence fell. Then, everything vanished. The village, the temple, the people, just gone. Ramesh collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath. The sky above was bright. The air felt normal again. He was safe, or so he thought. His phone vibrated in his pocket. With shaking hands, he pulled it out. A single message flashed on the screen. "Ramesh, come back. You have to go too. You have to go too." That was terrifying. But let me ask you, if you were in Ramesh's place, what would you have done? Have you ever experienced something so strange that it sent chills down your spine? Let us know in the comments. And if you love stories that keep you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell icon, and share this video with your friends so they too can uncover the mystery. You have to go too.